be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited.
Horror Movie Podcast. Welcome to another episode of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls Horror Movie Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Van Gogh. For the low price of only $3 a month, you can support us on Patreon. Visit us at patreon.com/BGGpodcast, and shout out to Goalie Jolie, once again holding it down over there. Thank you for your continued support. Now, we are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Discord, so be sure to follow us on all social media and stay up to date on all news and upcoming events happening in the Blood, Gore, and Ghouls world. Now, if you're listening on the audio version of the podcast, please hit the follow button, download our weekly episodes, and give us a 5-star rating. Now, if you have any feedback, questions, fun facts, or a topic that you want us to talk about on a future episode, or if you're an owner of a horror business, you're looking to sponsor some horror fanatics, then send us an email at bggpodcast@gmail.com. Now, initially, I was going to take this week off since I don't have a subject planned or a guest scheduled, but I also like to stay consistent and get an episode out every week unless I have a, week off scheduled ahead of time. In that case, I would, give you guys a heads up. But here we are. So this will just be a quick little news and story episode. We skipped horror movie news last week, so we'll get caught up on that, and I have a few updates on some upcoming events and episodes. So let's get into some scary movie news.
Scary movie news!
So we're going to start with some Bill Skarsgård news today. He has some upcoming projects in the works that we're going to talk about. So our first one here is Boy Kills World. So this is a Sam Raimi produced dystopian action thriller. Roadside Attractions and Lionsgate will release Boy Kills World in theaters on April 26th, 2024. So it follows Boy, who vows revenge after his family is murdered by Hilda Vander Koy, the deranged matriarch of a corrupt post-apocalyptic dynasty that left the boy orphaned, deaf, and voiceless. So driven by his inner voice, one which he co-opted from his favorite childhood video game, Boy trains with a mysterious shaman to become an instrument of death and set loose on the eve of the annual calling of dissidents. Bedlam ensues as Boy commits bloody martial arts mayhem, inciting a wrath of carnage and bloodletting. As he tries to get his bearings in this delirious realm, Boy soon falls in with a desperate resistance group, all the while bickering with the apparent ghost of his rebellious little sister. So I posted the trailer for this in Discord, and I think it looks like a really fun time. I don't know how horror it'll be, but it looks like it's going to be an over-the-top, bloody, gory, just good time. I'm very excited to see it. And funny enough, Bill's brother, Alexander, also played a mute character back in 2018 on a Netflix movie called Mute. Now, I watched that once. I don't really remember too much about it. It was definitely a more serious movie, compared to this one at least. But yeah, I just thought that was a kind of funny little tidbit there. But yeah, Boy Kills World looks like a really good time, and it'll be out April 26th of this year. So in other news, I'm sure everyone out there listening has seen it, has heard about it, but we got our first images of Bill Skarsgård in the upcoming Crow movie. So there were 3 images that were released, and the Crow movie is set to be released in theaters on June 7th of this year. Now, I know there's a lot of passion, a lot of love out there for the 1994 Crow movie starring Brandon Lee, and so I get it, completely understand. I'm not going to go too far into it on the episode here, because I did make a video, not a reaction per se. I waited 24 hours to kind of gather my thoughts, but I gave my thoughts on it in a video that I posted on TikTok and in the Facebook group. So if you're interested in my thoughts on it, check it out there. But real quick, I was kind of blown away by the negative reaction. I would like to say, I wasn't surprised, but holy shit. Like I said, I know there's a lot of people that are very passionate about that movie, but you would think that these 3 images, that somewhere in there, it was written, fuck Brandon Lee or fuck the Crow. Like, holy shit. So 3 images. We didn't get a trailer. We didn't get a clip. We didn't see any acting. We saw 3 images. Now, granted, the images weren't exactly what I was expecting. At least the image of the crow. So our first picture is, the most popular of the 3. It is, of course, the shirtless Bill Skarsgård has the crow makeup. So I think that's the makeup looks pretty good. The hair is short. It's not the long hair that we typically see with the crow. The dude's jacked. He's got abs on abs, and he has a bunch of tattoos. Yeah, when I first saw it, definitely had the vibes of Leto's Joker, which I addressed in my video. But the more I look at it, I kind of dig it. Other than the nipple tattoo, the face that I don't even know how to describe it, but there's a face around his nipple, and that one still freaks me out. But everything else, I'm not opposed to. This isn't Brandon Lee. It's not the 94 Crow. It's a whole new thing. So I'm not ready to write it off, and I'm not throwing any hate towards anyone who doesn't like it. But the amount of people and comments that I saw just saying like, fuck this movie because of 3 images, like just because it wasn't what you expected or what you wanted, you're just completely writing it off. Like that's just weird to me. So I'm not saying it's going to be a good movie. I think Bill's going to do an awesome job in the role. Whether the movie's good or not, I don't know. But I'm definitely willing to give it a chance to, not completely write the movie off because of 3 still images. So, yeah, definitely a different look. I wish if, not just this movie, just in general in Hollywood, in movies, if you're going to do a bunch of tattoos, can we just do like just full on, like covered? Like give me some sleeves, some, full body, full torso tattoos. Because typically, if it's how can I say it? Typically, I don't see full body covered tattoos unless it's like a villain. That's usually when I see like the full on throat, side, like neck, the sides of the neck, the full torso, like full on sleeved up. It's usually a villain character. The kind of hero characters are like usually just these random tattoos or like some weird shit like triple X. I don't know. But yeah, if we're gonna do tattoos, just go full on tattoos. That would be much better. But regardless, I'm not opposed to the look. I'm at least willing to give it a shot. See, at least see what a trailer looks like. See what it looks like in action. So that was the first image. The second image, I really like. It's an image of Bill as Eric Draven. There's a veil or a curtain, a sheet perhaps, between him and Shelley, and they're kissing. And I don't know, just the image, it looks really cool. I think it's a very beautiful image. So I like that one. And then the last image was them just sitting around what looks like a fire, and we get a side view of the haircut. And yeah, it's not cool. It's not a good look, but it's short hair on top, shaved on the sides, and then we have like a mullet in the back. Definitely doesn't look like the goth rocker that we're used to. But again, like I said in the video, this is 2024. So yeah, as much as I would love to see a rock star Eric Draven, and maybe he is in this, we don't know. But yeah, the look it's not my style. But again, I get it. Like that's kind of what is in style with younger people today. So everyone that's bitching and complaining and writing it off, my first reaction to that reaction was, you sound like our parents. Like, you've become the old people. And, sorry if that hits you, but that's what you sound like. You sound like old people. So maybe, I don't know, just have a more open mind. Or if you're going to, completely write it off, just keep it to yourself. Like, don't throw that shit out into the world, all your negativity. But that's just my opinion of it. So, we'll see what happens. But let's see what the details are here. So the director, Rupert Sanders. So this is the part that I'm kind of unsure of. So this director has directed Snow White and the Huntsman and the Ghost in the Shell live action movie. I'm not a big fan of either of those movies. I also don't hate them, but not the best track record. But again, we've gotten really good movies from directors who directed bad movies before that. So again, can't really judge it quite yet. But he explains to Vanity Fair, quote, "I think the beauty of Bill is that he has a disturbing beauty, and as he transforms through his loss, he becomes this thing that even he can't control. It's that famous line, whoever fights monsters must be careful that they don't become one." Now that look was me in the 90s when we were squat raving in London. It's mixed with some modern influences like Post Malone and Little Peep. So obviously the kind of face tats, the sporadic tattoos, that's definitely where that influence came from. He says, "I hope people who are 19 today look at him and go, that guy is us." So also from the director, Skarsgård leads the cast, and FKA Twigs is co-starring as Shelley. Now, I'm not too familiar with FKA Twigs, but we're also getting Danny Houston, who I'm guessing is the villain. And Danny Houston is fucking fantastic. He's the lead vampire in 30 Days of Night. He's been on American Horror Story a few times. I think he was in the fucking terrible X-Men Origins movie, but that movie's not terrible because of him. But yeah, just all the hate. I think I started to say it, but the comparison to the Joker, like I said, the first time I saw that picture, I got those vibes because of that. But what I was going to say is that Jared Leto's Joker, although the tattoos and appearance definitely didn't help the cause, the reason why that Joker is so terrible and arguably the worst version of the Joker that we've ever seen has nothing to do with the appearance. That was just terrible acting, terrible writing. Like I said, the appearance doesn't help, but that wasn't the reason why that Joker sucks. So regardless of what Eric Draven and the Crow look like, I'm optimistic. I definitely have complete confidence in Bill and what he's going to bring to the movie as far as his acting goes. So, regardless of how you feel about it, that's just my thoughts. And like I said, I'm hoping and I'm optimistic that, if anything, we'll get a cool new Crow movie. And if not, we still have the 94 Brandon Lee Crow. So, just food for thought. That's all that is. But let's see what else we got here. So in other adaptation news, so 2 genre properties are plotting returns from Lionsgate. So Jeff Snyder reports, with one of those projects being a fresh, modern take on American Psycho. So, quote, Lionsgate is plotting a new American Psycho movie and showing interest in a remake of The Dead Zone. So American Psycho, the tale of murderous yuppie Patrick Bateman, began his life as a 1991 novel written by written by Bret Easton Ellis, which was turned into Mary Herron's 2000 movie. So Christian Bale, of course, starred as Patrick Bateman in the hit movie, which still has fans debating a big question to this day. Is Bateman really a murderer or just a psychopath? So the film did spawn a direct-to-video quote-unquote sequel with American Psycho 2 in 2002. Now that was initially unrelated. It was just a script. It was an unrelated story, but they turned it into an American Psycho sequel, of course, starring Mila Kunis. Mila Kunis. Mila. One of those. Mia. Maya. Mila Kunis. I think that's the correct pronunciation, but I can't pronunciate shit, so you know who I'm talking about. So as for The Dead Zone, the story of a man who awakens from a coma to find he has psychic powers. It was first a 1979 novel from Stephen King, then became a 1983 movie directed by David Cronenberg. Christopher Walken starred as the main character Johnny Smith in the movie, and the King novel later spawned a 2002 TV series starring Anthony Evil Dies Tonight, Michael Hall. So yeah, we got some interesting news kind of back to back. So The Crow got everyone in a fucking uproar. And then they hit us with the news that there might be a new American Psycho. And whoo, man, the kids were angry this week. Again, I love American Psycho. One of my favorite movies. I'm a big fan of Christian Bale, and I think he gives a ton of amazing performances. But Christian Bale as Patrick Bateman is probably my favorite by a long shot. My favorite role of his. Just everything. It was just the perfect timing, I think, 2000 for that movie to come out. And just everything about it. I really, really enjoy that movie. But am I upset that potentially there might be another adaptation of American Psycho with a completely different actor? Maybe the same story, maybe not. I don't care, because no matter what, I've still got Christian Bale, American Psycho, that I can watch and enjoy. So if they're going to go through with this, cool. I'll watch it. Am I very optimistic or excited for it? Nah, not really. But I don't think I'm going to go online and say, this movie's going to suck. Fuck this movie. Because, life's too short to be a fucking dickhead all the time. So, again, just my 2 cents. As far as The Dead Zone, yeah, cool. Let's do it. I'm down for more horror, whether it's original, reboot, remake, another adaptation. I'd rather have more horror as opposed to less or no horror. So, fuck it, bring it on. So now for some things that I'm really excited about. So we've got Rice Frake Waterfield's Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. It promises to be bigger, better, and bloodier than the first film. And if you guys have been listening to the podcast, or you've been following me on TikTok for any extended amount of time, you'll probably know I'm a huge fan of the first movie. Now, not because it's a good movie, because it's not. It's some would say a terrible movie, but I loved it. And I loved it because I'm a huge fan of mashups, of kind of crossovers. So my favorite thing to create as far as artwork goes, when I was growing up and kind of earlier in my art career, was taking cartoons that I loved as a child and turning them into horror artwork. So like one of the first ones I remember was I did the Rugrats as zombies. I took Tommy Pickles on one side, I put Chucky on the other side, and in the middle was Angelica completely ripped in half. And so that's kind of where my mind goes in, just fucked up shit. So when they announced that Winnie the Pooh was getting a horror version, I was all about it. I knew going in that it was not going to be a good movie, that the acting was probably going to be terrible, that probably the story was going to be terrible. But I didn't go into it for any of that shit. I went into it to see Winnie the Pooh fuck some people up, and in that I was not disappointed at all. So when they announced a sequel, I was even more stoked, because I know a lot of people hated the first one. I was not one of them. I'm all about it. So give me sequels. I will not complain. So this one, let's see, Fathom Events. will bring Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 to theaters nationwide, beginning March 26th. So the first movie came out last year, 2022, 2 years ago. And it was in theaters for one day only. I was lucky enough that I was off work that day, so I went and checked it out. So I got to experience that in the theater. Now, this one is coming to theaters for 3 days, March 26th, 27th, and 28th. It just so happens I'm off work 2 of the 3 days. I'm off for the 27th and the 28th. So once again, I will be in the theater on the 27th, most likely, if not the 28th, watching this movie on the big screen. And I cannot fucking wait for it. So the plot summary goes like this. Deep within the 100-acre wood, a destructive rage grows as Winnie the Pooh, Piglet, Owl, and Tigger find their home and their lives endangered after Christopher Robin revealed their existence. Not wanting to live in the shadows any longer, the group decides to take the fight to the town of Ashdown, home of Christopher Robin, leaving a bloody trail of death and mayhem in their wake. Winnie and his savage friends will show everyone that they're deadlier, stronger, and smarter than anyone could ever imagine, and get their revenge on Christopher Robin once and for all. So Matt Leslie is the writer of the screenplay for the slasher sequel. Matt Leslie looks like he was the writer for the summer of '84, which if you guys saw that, it was kind of throwback to '80s. Obviously, it takes place in '84. It was a pretty good time. Not the best, but I enjoyed it overall. So I'm even more kind of stoked for this one because it might have a decent story. But yeah, we've also been told that the upcoming sequel will crack Jagged Edge's public domain horror universe wide open, teasing upcoming Pinocchio, Bambi, and Peter Pan based horror movies. So I don't know if that means that those characters will make an appearance in Winnie the Pooh 2. If so, then holy fuck, I'm going to love it. Or if it's just saying that this sequel happening is kind of opening up the gates of the possibility of a Pinocchio, Bambi, and Peter Pan horror movies in the future. I don't know. We'll find out here at the end of the month. Regardless, though, I'm stoked for it. I can't wait. It's going to be a good time. I have zero expectations. I cannot be disappointed. So as long as it's bloody, gory, and brutal, I'm going to be happy. So that's all I got for that. In other cool news, The Strangers, Chapter 1. We got our first poster and our first trailer. So the first installment in a brand new reboot trilogy from Lionsgate and director Rennie Harlan, The Strangers Chapter 1 will be available in theaters nationwide on May 17th of this year. Now, Strangers Chapter 1 is said to be something of a remake of the original 2008 movie, while its sequels, Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, will blaze a new path from there. Our hope is that the 2 subsequent movies will allow Rennie Harlan to get crazy and inject a little more of his personal filmmaking style into the proceedings, because The Strangers Chapter 1 indeed does look like a pretty straight-up remake of Brian Bertino's 2008 home invasion classic. So, I say yes. It looks similar, but at the same time, there's definitely some changes, but yeah, it does look pretty similar. It says the first trailer essentially goes through all the familiar beats, ending with a new, lesser version of the most iconic line from Bertino's movie, "Because you were home," has been replaced with "Because you're here." Now, I like the trailer. It was much better than I was expecting. Now, I'm a huge fan of the 2008 Strangers movie. But I didn't have high expectations for this. Now, I want it to succeed because I'm very interested in the sequels. This first movie, though, I haven't quite been sold on, so I wasn't expecting much. So the trailer it looks better than I was expecting. There were a few cool surprises. First of all, Richard Brake. I had no idea he was in that till I saw him in the trailer, and then I got a little excited because I fucking love Richard Brake, so I'm already sold on it there. But yeah, there were a couple changes. So yeah, the infamous line, "Because you were home," they say it in the trailer, but they say "because you're here." It doesn't hit the same. I'm hoping that they changed it only for the trailer, and, because they do that shit sometimes. They'll change phrases or dialogue, or they'll put in scenes that aren't in the movie. So I'm hoping they changed it for the trailer, and that they're going to actually put the "because you were home" line in the movie. But regardless, it's a small complaint, but it definitely doesn't hit the same. And another change from the 2008 original is that the two main characters look to be a happy couple, whereas the first movie's couple, they were on the brink of collapse at the start of their nightmare. That's one complaint I've always had with the original, though. I never was sold on that idea that you have two people who are in a relationship, and maybe there was problems prior, but they're not really touched on in the movie. The only thing that we see in the movie is I want to say they're at a wedding, some sort of event. The guy proposes to the girl, and she says no, or not right now, which I get it. That's going to be a bummer, but I don't. Maybe it's just me personally. If that happened, we would talk about it. It's not a breakup. For this couple, it seemed like she said no, or that she wasn't ready, and that was the end. Like, it just, I don't know. It's always felt off to me. So the fact that this changes that this is a kind of seemingly happy couple, I think that that might work a little better, but we'll see. Let's see. So the character drama added an additional layer of tension to the proceedings, as the two leads were already a decidedly ununited front before the strangers came knocking. Quote, "Discover how the strangers become the strangers," or became the strangers, is the tagline at play in the first look trailer, which suggests the new movie is intended to be a prequel to the 2008 film. It's hard to tell. Which, yeah, they are marketing as "see how the strangers became the strangers." I feel like that's just a marketing ploy. I don't see this being a prequel to the first movie, when this is the start of a trilogy. But again, there's not a whole lot of information. So if so, possibly, I don't know. Time will tell, I guess. We'll have to wait till the movie is actually out. But the full official synopsis says, after their car breaks down in an eerie small town, a young couple are forced to spend the night in a remote cabin. Panic ensues as they are terrorized by three masked strangers who strike with no mercy and seemingly no motive. So yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. Like I said, I don't have the highest hopes for this first movie, but I obviously want it to be good, because who wants a bad movie? But I want it to at least be decent, so that it succeeds, so that they continue on with the chapters 2 and 3, because I'm very curious about that. Like, I don't know. I was okay with Strangers Pray at Night. I liked a lot of that. It wasn't nearly as good as the first one, but it was decent until the end. The end is where it lost me, where they went kind of supernatural. So that kind of put a stake in the heart of continuing the franchise, at least in a more realistic route. So I wasn't a big fan of it, because the first one's very realistic. That shit can happen. The second one, then, half of it was somewhat realistic. The last half, not so much. So I wasn't a huge fan of the route that they went with it. So when this was announced of a new trilogy, I was kind of confused by it at first. Now getting some more information, I'm optimistic. I'm hoping it's decent, at least, because I do really like the Strangers, so I would never complain that there is new Strangers content that I can watch and enjoy. So again, we'll just wait till it comes out, and fingers crossed. Hopefully, all those movies that I just talked about, hopefully they're all good, that they're all enjoyable. But time will tell. So we have some news in the horror video game world. So Killer Klowns from Outer Space, the game, will officially launch on June 4th. Now you can currently pre-order it from the Steam Store, PlayStation Store, and Xbox Marketplace, and the game has full cross-play support. So the game is coming along 36 years after creators the Chiodos brothers released the cult classic 80s movie. And the good news is that the Chiodos brothers are heavily involved in the game. So Killer Klowns from Outer Space, the game, is a 3v7 asymmetrical multiplayer horror game based on the cult horror classic film. So when murderous alien clowns come to feed on the quiet town of Crescent Cove, the locals must work together to fight back and survive the invasion. Now, players can team up as either clowns or humans, choosing from a variety of character classes to explore an expansive, ever-changing map with creepy surprises waiting around every corner. Take on the role of the iconic Killer Klowns, cooperate in a team of 3 players, utilize unworldly abilities, hunt humans with zany weapons, and plan your alien invasion to harvest the population of Crescent Cove successfully. Or you can fight back as a team of 7 brave citizens of Crescent Cove, explore the city for valuable loot and weapons, avoid getting captured by clowns, and try to survive the alien invasion. So it's developed by TerraVision Games. Its playfully panic-inducing action experience faithfully recreates the atmosphere of the iconic movie and aims to stir up the asymmetrical multiplayer horror genre in multiple ways. The game is being developed as a live service title with multiple content updates planned for post-launch. So, how do you guys feel about this game? I was excited about it. I was stoked for it when it was first announced, a year or 2 ago. And I think I'm still hoping it's good. I'm not sure if I'm going to purchase it or not, because I obviously love horror movies. I love video games. I love video games based on horror movies. I don't think there's a good track record for horror video games that are multiplayer, like 3v7. Pretty much Dead by Daylight was the one that kind of kicked it off. I don't know if it started it, but that's obviously become the most popular of games like this. That one, I get really into in waves. So I played it straight for 1.5 to 2 years, and I've just got burnt out on it. But that one works because we have all these different horror properties as well as original characters for that game, but there's not really a story. They have an in-game story if you want to delve into it, but there's not a overall, like, you don't need to know a story going into it. You can just play as a killer or a survivor and try to either kill or survive. So these other games, like Friday the 13th, Evil Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they're all games that I was really stoked for. And I would get them and I would play them and I'd be into them for, I don't know, maybe a month. And I lose interest in them. Obviously, I love the movies and it's great playing as the characters that I love. But being a multiplayer game, it just, I don't know, maybe it's just me. It just doesn't quite hit. I would much rather have a story, kind of, single player, play through the story. So give me like a new original story of, like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Friday the 13th or Evil Dead, especially Evil Dead. Make a whole new story. Give me essentially a new movie, but a video game. That would be a lot better, I think, in my opinion. And even if they made it multiplayer so that, if you're playing, Ash in an Evil Dead game, they can put in the other survival characters. They can put in the characters from the show. Give us an Ash and a Mia from Evil Dead 2013, or the characters from Evil Dead Rise. Like, make it so that it's still a kind of story campaign mode, if you will, that you can play with your friends. But the whole, 3 versus 3 or 4v1, in this case 3v7. It becomes redundant, and it's fun for a little bit, and then it's very not fun. Again, maybe that's just me, but from what I hear of the excitement level just in general for games like this, is that, yeah, they do really well at the start, and then they fizzle out pretty fast. Dead by Daylight's the only one that has kind of kept its momentum. And then, like I said, I think that's because it incorporates so many different characters from different franchises, and it doesn't rely on any kind of story. It's just the kind of the same thing over and over again, but with different characters. It pretty much keeps it simple. So, Killer Klowns, I want to be excited for. Like, I love Killer Klowns from Outer Space movie. I just don't know if I want to spend another whatever amount, $40 to $70, however much it's going to be, for it to pretty much sit there, because I'll play it for a month and then I'll probably get bored with it. So we'll see. I'll probably wait till it comes out, see what the talk is, how people feel about it, and we'll go from there. But I don't know. I want to be excited for it, but at the same time, I can't drop a chunk of money on a game and then just sit in my game library. Like, just can't do it anymore. But in other video game news, the found footage horror franchise Paranormal Activity is planning a return in 2026. But the next installment is that in the hit franchise will be a video game rather than a new movie. So Dread XP, one of the most recognized horror video game publishers in the industry, Darkstone Digital and Paramount Game Studios announced plans to produce an all-new interactive game experience based on the blockbuster Paranormal Activity franchise. So known for hit titles such as The Mortuary Assistant, My Friendly Neighborhood, and the Dread X Collection series, Dread XP's Paranormal Activity pairs the video game publisher's expertise in crafting unique, unforgettable terrors with one of the biggest horror properties in the world. Dread XP's Paranormal Activity video game will bring the franchise's groundbreaking found footage style to horror enthusiasts in surprising new ways, immersing them in a story that expands upon the lore and world of the films. Now, co-director and creative director Brian Clark, the developer of the acclaimed Mortuary Assistant, leads the development of Paranormal Activity. The game will feature an advanced, quote, haunt system, which will dynamically alter the types and intensity of scares players will encounter based on their actions. So he said, quote, "We're thrilled to work with Paramount Game Studios and to have the opportunity to bring the world of Paranormal Activity to gamers everywhere. The films are steeped in rich lore and creative scares, and under the stewardship of creative director Brian Clark, Paranormal Activity's video game will honor those core tenets and offer horror fans one of our most terrifying games yet." They're going to say the success of the Paranormal Activity franchise epitomizes the power and reach of the horror genre. If you thought The Mortuary Assistant was scary, we're taking what we learned during the development of that title and cranking it up with a more reactive and horrifying haunting system. It's going to be intense. So what began as a indie sensation in 2007 became a global horror phenomenon as the original Paranormal Activity terrified audiences around the world and reimagined the found footage genre for a whole new generation. The 7 chilling films in the franchise, brought to the screen by producers Blumhouse and Solana Films, have earned more than $800 million at the worldwide box office. The Paranormal Activity video game is slated for release in 2026 across multiple platforms. Additional details will be announced by publisher Dread XP at a later date. So this one, I don't know. It could be really good. I haven't played Mortuary's Assistant, but I have friends in the streaming world who have played and streamed it, and it looks to be pretty intense. From what I've heard from them, it's a pretty good game. So this could be something really, really cool. You know, the Paranormal Activity franchise as a whole has kind of gone downhill. So I think a video game in that world that is very much a horror video game, a kind of first person or at least single player experience, could be pretty fucking gnarly. So I'm interested in that. It definitely has some potential to be some scary shit. So yeah, any details, any upcoming details on any of the movie or video game news that I just went over, of course, I'll keep you all updated in the Facebook group, in Discord, Instagram. So make sure you're a part of all that. Make sure you're following. So as far as some podcast news and updates, so this weekend I'm scheduled to be a guest on the Pretty Killer podcast. Now, I'm very excited to get to chat with Jordana, and I'm sure it's going to be a really fun time. I'm not sure when it'll go live, but again, make sure that you're a part of the Discord, the Facebook group, Instagram. I will let you all know. I'll keep you all updated once I know what her release schedule is and when that one will go live. But yeah, I'm very excited. This will be my first guest spot on another horror podcast. So yeah, little nervous. Don't really know what to expect, but it'll be a fun time. I can't wait to talk horror movies with her. And as far as here on Blood, Gore, and Ghouls, I'm working on getting some new guests. So looking to get some guests who are a part of the horror movie industry in one way or another. So whether they be directors, actors, work behind the scenes, special effects artists, pretty much anything that has to do with horror movies. So I've been in contact with a few different people that I would love to have on the show. I was just speaking with one of them earlier today and working on getting something scheduled. So I don't want to announce who all I'm talking to and who all I'm planning on having on, at least not until we have something scheduled, kind of set in stone. And as soon as I get something worked out and scheduled and in the books, then I will, start making those announcements. But I'm very excited. I can't wait to talk to some of these people because I love horror movies very much, but I'm not as knowledgeable on on that side of it, as far as how movies are made and what goes into making a movie and what happens behind the scenes. So yeah, it's outside of seeing documentaries and making ofs. I don't know a whole lot. So I'm very interested to get to speak to some of these people and interview them, and of course have them on the show. I think it's going to be a really fun time. Going to kind of bring a different aspect to not only our content, but just in kind of learning that side of it. So really excited about it. But yeah, that being said, if anyone listening works or knows someone who works or is a part of the horror film industry, if you'd like to chat with me on an episode, then please hit me up on our email at bggpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to get as many people as possible. I love making the show, doing the, recording the episodes every week. So I have no plans on stopping. So I would love to get as many people scheduled as possible and, keep rolling with it. So definitely, if you are a part of the horror movie industry or know someone that is, please reach out, bggpodcast@gmail.com. Now I have some shout outs. Something I've been wanting to do for a while, but typically, we have a somewhat of a format, an outline for the show. So time is usually, it's hard to fit extra things into the episodes. So I wanted to just kind of take a moment, since it's a little bit shorter episode this week, and wanted to give some shout outs. So if you're a fan of horror apparel and accessories, then please go check out my friend Jamie's Etsy shop. It's Ghoulish Glam by Jamie. I'll put the link in the show notes with all the other links. But she has everything from t-shirts to earrings to cutting boards, a ton of different items, all with different horror movie designs on them. She's making some really cool stuff. So I definitely recommend checking her shop out. Her shop is, relatively new, but she's been doing awesome. She's making some really, really cool things, and she's going to be kind of starting working some events, different shows and just events in our area, as well as I know there's one out in Pittsburgh here next month. So she's trying to reach out and grow her business. And like I said, there's some really cool stuff in her shop. So please go check that out. Again, it is Ghoulish Glam by Jamie. Now I want to give a shout out to some friends who have podcasts of their own. So if you're all caught up here and you're looking for more horror podcasts to add to your weekly listening rotation, these are all these are all podcasts that I listen to weekly, and I'm a huge fan of. So they can be found on all audio platforms. So I want to give a shout out here. So first of all, Pretty Killer Podcast. Definitely check her out. Like I said, I'll be on her show. We're recording here this weekend. But yeah, her show is always really fun, enjoyable to listen to. So Pretty Killer Podcast. Check out Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast. That one is one that I've been listening to for quite a while now. It's a group of 4 friends. Typically, they'll review a different horror movie on each episode. And it's always a fun time. Just, the different, how they each feel about that particular movie. It's a good time. So whether I agree with one of their reviews or not, it doesn't matter. It's always just an entertaining, fun experience. So definitely check out Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast, as well as Horror Junkies. It's one that I've recently, within probably the last month, have started listening to. They're really, really fun, really entertaining as well. They have a fantastic intro song. I'm pretty jealous of it, to be honest. But yeah, definitely check out Horror Junkies. They have a lot of really cool knowledge and insight into horror movies as well. And last but not least, my friends in Welcome to Creepy Camp. They, I don't think are on quite a schedule as far as weekly. But yeah, they'll throw episodes out every now and again. Always a fun time. Another very knowledgeable group of dudes. Check out Welcome to Creepy Camp. But yeah, I recommend all of them for really cool horror content. And of course, I have to shout out my brothers over at Project Skeptic Podcast. Jay and the Bumbino, they've been guests here quite a few times, and they've had me over there quite frequently as well. So if you're interested in conspiracies, mysteries, and just hilarious fucked up shit, then please go check out Project Skeptic Podcast. It's always just a very entertaining, fun time. So that's all the shout outs for this week. And with that, that's all I got. So thank you. Appreciate you all listening, watching, supporting me just by following and listening and doing what you do. So just want to say thank you. But it'll do it for another episode of Blood, Gore, and Ghouls. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe on these social media accounts: Patreon, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Like I said, all the links, as always, will be in the show notes. But until next week, I've been your host, Ian Van Ghoul. Have a ghoulish week, and stay safe out there.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you.
There you go. That's it.